I want to welcome everybody today to another episode of Fire More Than Flames and Smoke. And we have a special guest today, Alan Johnston. He's the founder of Green Tech Environmental, and he is a wealth of information on the science and technology side of controlling odors, controlling airborne and surface contaminants. And I just find it a privilege to have him here with us today. So, Alan, if you'd like to say a quick hello, we'll get started.
Hi, Lance. Privileged to be with you as well today.
Thank you very much. Can you give us a real brief background, a little bit as your background of where you've come from and how we got to this point today?
Sure. My background is engineering. I'm a graduate of Purdue University in Indiana in electrical engineering, and I worked in the aerospace industry for 15 years. On some exciting programs involving NASA, the space shuttle, and a lot of different missile systems that protect our country. I had the opportunity to enter the air purification industry in 1997, now over 25 years ago, and it was really a combination of factors, but one that really drove my interest was the loss of my mother, who ultimately passed away from mold exposure in a school that she taught in. And as an aerospace engineer, I had a hard time understanding how something like that could happen in the world that we live in with such great technologies available to us. And so I've dedicated the rest of my professional career to finding technologies that solve the problem of indoor air quality and do it in a way that really mimics the way that the nature cleans the air outside.
Well, I don't know if you really know how many lives you've actually reached, but just from the technologies that you've worked on and put out into the market, it's countless. So I want to thank you for that. I know how it's affected my family, my friends that use these similar types of technologies. So again, thank you for all of that. But speaking of the technologies, why don't we get into some of them? I mean, the central and eastern part of the United States over the last week or so has really been impacted by fires coming out of Canada. And, out of sight, out of mind, we think of Canada hundreds, thousands of miles away, depending on where you're located, but it's having a direct influence on us. And the technologies that you've worked on and are familiar with are really the lifeline for many people that have breathing issues or just regular people that are reacting to the smoke. So I don't know if you want to just start talking about some of them, or if you want me to request. Why don't we go with what you're comfortable with?
Well, the technologies are obviously something that I am passionate about. I'm the founder of Green Tech Environmental and started that company almost 15 years ago now. And the object of the mission, I'd say, of our company is to find technologies that truly solve the problem, or not just a Band-Aid on them. And there are technologies that, as I said earlier, mimic what nature does outdoors, and I'll share some of those with you. This issue that we're having recently with wildfire smoke is certainly a significant, and it's a problem that pops up periodically, certainly every month of every year, somewhere around the world, and the United States had a chance to experience it, affecting as many as 100 million people here just in the last few weeks. It is toxic.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Because what you just mentioned, affecting 100 million people in the United States, this is a part of the country that's not normally affected. But one of the things that came out of this, because of the thickness of the smoke, we actually got a glimpse into what the starting of a nuclear winter would look like. And it affected the overall climate. In New Jersey, which is where I'm from, the average temperature this time of the year is normally 80, 85 degrees. When the smoke was as thick as it was for those 4 days, we barely got to 70 degrees. It lowered the temperature almost 20 degrees a day. So it made a big difference, and that affects things going forward.
makes a huge difference. And we see the same from volcano eruptions, although not something that we often see here in this country, but in other parts of the world, not uncommon. And it's a scary situation. But from what affects you and I, and what we're really concerned about, our health, the effect of what the constituents that make up that wildfire smoke, more than just what we can see, it's the chemical compounds that are inside of that smoke that are of real concern. I have the privilege to be on multiple boards of committees with ASHRAE, and ASHRAE is the standard that is set for heating and air conditioning and indoor air quality. And one of those standards is 52.2, which is the standard for filtration. And what you hear most about when someone talks about the concerns over health and wildfire smoke is PM 2.5 or particulate matter at 2.5 microns. And that is just one size particle. Obviously, wildfire smoke contains particles of virtually every size, up to particles that we can see very clearly. But scientists have really focused in on that one size because it's one that they measure and have identified as one that can get into our lungs and get absorbed into our bloodstream and have a dramatic health effect. And so filtration becomes an important part of a solution to dealing with wildfire smoke indoors. I know that people are talking about setting up safe rooms within their homes, a place that they can go that will allow them to breathe and have a minimal effect from the wildfire smoke. And for those that have technologies that they put into these rooms, congratulations. It's something that we should all have to be able to have a safe haven. We never know when wildfires can hit. I'm sitting in Northeast Tennessee, not far from Gatlinburg, a beautiful, one of the most visited national parks, but was struck by a wildfire just a few years ago that took out thousands of acres and burned thousands of homes, something that was unheard of because we just don't have many wildfires in this area. And we got a glimpse of what that can mean. It can strike anywhere, and preparedness is important. So as we've worked as a community within ASHRAE, developing standards for filtration, high quality HEPA type pleated filters that are able to filter out these ultrafine particles is very important. Most people don't have filtration in their home other than maybe on their HVAC system. And a lot of people are going out and buying 50 cents filters from Walmart. And one of the things that I would like to say right up front is don't do that. Invest in a quality filter that is pleated. And there are a number of them out there that are MERV 7 rated filters, and that's generally what a typical HVAC system can handle. MERV ratings have to do with the effectiveness of the particle capturing ability. The higher the MERV rating, the tighter the weave, the less air flows through the filter. And one of the things that we can't do is typically on most systems put a HEPA type filter, which is MERV 13 and above. A true HEPA filter is MERV 16. HEPA type filters start around MERV 13. But those are very restrictive to airflow, or can be, and most of your systems can't handle it. But if you can go from just a dust bunny catcher, which is a typical cheap 50-cent filter that is made of fiberglass that you can see through, to a quality pleated filter that would be a MERV 7, you're going to be light years ahead for that. But a filter doesn't take out another problem with wildfire smoke, and that's chemical constituents.
That's one of the things that we talked about, especially when COVID hit, that people were wearing masks, and the masks were fine for particulate, but it wasn't stopping something at the size of a virus. And the same thing with smoke; it'll stop the particulate, but nothing to do with the gases.
That's correct, Lance. The gases are of significant concern to health. Inside that wildfire smoke, there are toxic gases, chemical compounds that are harmful to our health. And for the most part, we're able to deal with lots of issues, lots of chemicals that we get faced with. Our bodies are wonderful at being able to deal with those, but as we get exposed to more and more chemicals, which we are, chemicals that come through our skin from laundry detergent, chemicals come from the cleaners that we use in the indoor environment to clean, to sanitize, which is great, but those chemicals get in the air and we breathe them in. And it's not a surprise that today the CDC and EPA are saying that over 15% of our population have chemical sensitivities. In other words, they've been exposed to so many chemicals that their body is no longer able to deal with it. And now they become what is often referred to as hypersensitive to chemicals and have an adverse reaction to them. And now they have to be extremely cautious because their body can no longer take that exposure. And so it puts them into a downward spiral. So those people are using hypoallergenic laundry detergent, for instance. They're using things that are for people who have chemical sensitivities. If you want to avoid becoming chemically sensitive, you want to remove as many chemicals as you can from your environment so that your body doesn't become overwhelmed. And certainly wildfire smoke with all the chemical constituents in it create a problem that do put people at risk in that way.
One of the episodes that we're doing, we're talking with a professional forest fire fighter, and he talks about the different types of forest fire smoke. A lot of people say, well, it's like a campfire. We do that all the time and we have a fire pit. Well, that's when just the trees basically and the brush are burning. When it burns through an area with warehouses and homes, everything that is going airborne is toxic, beyond just the regular smoke from the firewood. So, it's a completely unknown situation as to what you're breathing. You can't just say, oh, it's a typical campfire, which I'm used to all the time. And just like with contaminated water from a flood, everything is in that water. It's no longer drinkable. Well, this isn't really good to breathe, though you can't stop doing that.
That's true. But there are technologies that exist which are able to deal with those chemical constituents. And whether it's from wildfire smoke or just cleaning compounds that we use, there are technologies there and ones that I have been focused on in my career in indoor air quality for over 25 years. There are.
Could you tell us about a few of them?
I'd love to. One that I have focused on primarily is something called photocatalytic oxidation, or another term is photocatalysis. Photo refers to ultraviolet light. Catalytic refers to the catalyst, which the ultraviolet light activates, that creates a reaction. But by definition, the catalyst itself never changes, it never gets used up. What's happening is the photocatalyst typically made of a compound that has a very high band gap energy, which titanium dioxide is the primary one that is used. It allows for the UV light to create enough energy to break the bonds of the electrons that rotate the nucleus of this titanium dioxide, leaving behind electron holes. Now I'm getting a little deep in the technology side of it, but it's fascinating to think about because these electron holes that are left behind. I mean, the titanium dioxide, which has a lot of, it's a very strong material. It has a lot of energy that holds the electrons to itself. So when it loses it, it has a strong pull to get them back. Well, as molecules come into contact with the surface of this photocatalyst, those electrons do get pulled away, and now it breaks down something called molecular dissociation, breaks down these chemicals, and the chemical that existed prior to reaching the surface of the photocatalyst is no longer. It's broken down into its subcomponents, and it literally no longer exists. And that's the beauty of a photocatalytic system, is we can take things which are harmful in the atmosphere, put them through this system, and actually eliminate them. People do things like spray chemicals in the air to make the air smell better because they don't like the smell of the wildfire smoke or other odors that may occur in the home. But that's just adding more chemicals on top of the chemicals that are already there. Photocatalysis is able to break those down. In addition to that, it also creates oxygen and hydrogen-based compounds like hydroxyls, HO, hydrogen peroxide, in a vapor form of H2O2, other types of compounds, hydroperoxides, HO2. They're all made of hydrogen and oxygen, but those compounds, also referred to as oxidizers, as they travel out, they oxidize molecules as well. So it's not just working inside this photocatalytic system that is used and put into HVAC systems as well as standalone products, but it also creates things that travel out and clean the air actively throughout the ventilated space. Everywhere the air is, it's cleaning the air. So we can create that safer environment by using that kind of technology. There are some other technologies in addition to photocatalytic oxidation, or also referred to as PCO, such as bipolar ionization. Now that can be used with needlepoint ionization, where you have both a positive and negative electrical charge, and it puts these electrical charges in the air that can come into contact with water vapor and break those down and create oxidizers in the same way that photocatalysis does. There are also DBI, dielectric barrier ionizers, which do not use needlepoint. They use a different kind of technology, but it creates this plasma of positive and negative electrical charges, which tend to last longer than just a bipolar ionization technology does. But these two travel out and are able to break down contaminants. So if we look at what all of these technologies I've just described do, it mimics what happens outdoors every day with the sun creating the energy that interacts with compounds that create this photocatalytic reaction, the sun creating these electrical charges that are in the air and cleaning the air actively. I often say there's no giant vacuum cleaner in the sky with a filter on it that purifies our air outside. And in spite of everything that we do outside, whether nature does with wildfires or we do with automobiles and cars and airplanes producing pollutants in the air, all the outdoor air is constantly being polluted, yet the outdoor air generally is 5 to 10 times cleaner than indoor air. And that's according to the US EPA. And the reason for that is nature has these systems in place that clean the air and create a healthier environment outdoors than we have indoors, in spite of what you might do to keep things clean. So our goal is to bring those technologies indoors.
Alan, I got to interrupt you for a second. I mean,
Sure.
you had said about getting too technical. I don't think you did, but I want to point out that all of these technologies are available. This is what is commonplace today. And, we've talked about in other trainings, I use the term science fiction becomes science fact. It may sound like science fiction, but this is all what's working nowadays, and it's affordable. It's something that everybody can get their hands on. You don't have to go to NASA to request something like this. It's there. You just have to know what you're looking for and asking for. We get a lot of people that say, oh yeah, I have an air purifier. Well, what do you have? And they tell you, and it's a inexpensive filter.
Mm-hmm.
And, we know with filters, filters only filter what makes it to the filter.
Correct.
The proactive technologies you're talking about go out and find the problems and take care of it wherever it's at. So that's a big difference. And I applaud people for wanting to do something, but they really need to get the information to know what they're getting. Just like the people that wore masks when COVID hit. I mean, how many people did you see wearing masks made out of paper towels? I'm wearing a mask. Well, yes, you are. However, whether it works or not. So where do you see this industry going with like the technologies that are there right now? They're not brand new. They've been enhanced. They've been combined together. But moving forward, especially with the changes in our environment, smoke conditions, temperature, relative humidity problems, where do you see we going or us going with that?
Well, the technologies are slowly being accepted. One of the reasons that I became heavily involved with ASHRAE and on a number of committees was there has been an overall resistance to electronic air purification, the technologies that I just described. And some of the testing that has been done on them, the way the tests have been set up, the results have not been positive. The problem with the test and their protocol was that they have done what is referred to as single pass testing. In other words, they'll put some kind of a challenge gas and put it through the photocatalytic reactor and measure what comes out the backside. And in this breaking down of the molecule, in some cases, the molecule that comes out the backside is worse than the molecule that came in. It's what is referred to as a cascading process. So you start with one molecule, it breaks to another, breaks to another. But if all you do is measure it after one pass, well, that's not really a good indication, because we don't put systems in our homes or businesses or factories that just go through once. We are constantly circulating the air through the room, through our devices. It's working continuously. And unfortunately, the people who can create these protocols for testing try and control it to a level that we end up with these protocols that make just a single pass. I'm very thankful at our international meeting in Atlanta in February. There was a great session with a number of PhDs that worked tirelessly on this subject, showing the results of what we refer to in the industry as electronic air purification can do, and the benefits of it, and really putting holes in what has been the standards, the protocols that have been used up until now. One of the other subjects I'll just throw in was that ASHRAE has a mandate to decarbonize, which means to save energy. And up until now, and still today, really, people have thrown their arms up as to how to deal with this indoor air quality problem, other than just to ventilate, which means bringing fresh air from outside inside, because we know that the outside air is cleaner than the inside air. So the solution to indoor air pollution becomes dilution, which it is true. It does make the air quality better indoors to bring a lot of fresh air in, but you have to heat and cool that. So we're spending more money, we're using more energy in order to heat and cool, when we can get the same results through using this electronic air purification that really mimics what happens outdoors. We're making headway, and I'm thankful for that. But the technology exists today. NASA has used photocatalytic oxidation technology in the space station since it was put up in the air. It's been critical for them in the growing of plants, but it also helps to purify the air throughout the space station and break down chemical compounds that are being used there. And so when people say, is it safe? Well, it's mimicking what happens outdoors, one. Secondly, NASA has been using it for decades successfully, and it has been key to the International Space Station, will be key to a Mars mission in the future.
Some of the issues that you were talking about, how some of the technology is not accepted, the testing data, things like that. Unfortunately, politics gets involved in this. During one of the episodes with the firefighter from California that we were talking with, he had been involved with a lot of litigation over using fire retardants on forest fires, where they're dropping these retardants from planes.
Yes.
And putting out the fires almost immediately. The problem is a movement out there saying that it's polluting the watersheds doing that. Well, here's the problem, the way he described it, that if you can attack the fires quickly with this retardant, yes, it can affect the watershed. If you don't attack it quickly and let it burn, there is no longer a watershed. And, it's, I don't want to say the lesser of two evils, but the politics gets in the way of putting out the fire, basically. And that's unfortunate. The stuff that you're talking about, people not understanding the technologies and not being mainstream, is because of, like you said, the testing, the way it's done, the cascading effect. Everything goes through that process. Another component of indoor air quality is radon. Now, it's a radioactive gas. The difference is that it's not actually radon that causes the problem. Radon breaks down into three other components that are the radioactive material that actually cause damage to the human lungs. Nobody talks about that. They just say radon, and radon is not really what's even being detected. So the politics, the buzzwords, I guess that gets in the way.
It does. People grab hold of a small point and run with it and discount technologies, processes, without really understanding them. We have here at GreenTech spent almost $2 million on testing over the last 3 years. Some of that was on COVID, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which was important, obviously, during the pandemic, but testing on mold, bacteria, on VOCs, looking at monitoring formaldehyde and toluene and some of these other chemicals that are harmful to human health, yet are found frequently in the indoor environment, and been able to show through the use of our photocatalytic technology, the use of dielectric barrier ionizers, bipolar ionization, unipolar ionization, that we're able to reduce the chemical load in the environment over a matter of hours and days, that even when we inoculate the space with compounds that, when they get broken down, create things like formaldehyde, that we actually don't even see an increase in formaldehyde as we monitor that. We see it go down continuously from one day to the next, and it stays down as long as the technology is running in the space. So it's, we don't have the luxury of that in a laboratory environment. And that's the reason that the data is not able to show the true results, because typically tests are run for 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, but not longer than that. And that's not the way that our products operate. We're running continuously, and they're constantly breaking down and getting down to a level where the contaminants in the space, whether they're chemical, whether they're particles, whether they're biological, that we have reduced them down to a level that allows our bodies to deal with the remnants that always exist. You never get 100% of anything out of the air, but if we can get them down to where our natural immune system can deal with them, that's the key. And that's why people that have COPD, that have asthma, respiratory issues, get such relief from the use of this electronic air purification technology that I've described today.
How about odor control? Because that's another big component of the wildfires that are affecting people now. Again, they see it, so they're reacting to it, but they also usually smell it before they see it.
That is so true.
I did here in New Jersey. It was like all of us, the morning was fine. The afternoon was like, I smell a fire. And by that evening, it looked like sunset at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was just so dark. So what's available out there for odor?
Well, and some of the odor gets dealt with through the use of the technologies I've described, photocatalysis, dielectric barrier ionization, bipolar, unipolar ionization, but not 100%, especially because wildfire smoke, the smell from it is so overwhelming. I am really excited about a technology that I learned about that was developed by a tiny company up in Kentucky. And my company was able to get the exclusive worldwide rights for applying this technology to a filter. It's the trade name is called OdorGuard. And by the name, it is something that deals with odors, but it goes way beyond that. But it's used in different areas where odors are a big problem, like inside of trash bags today. Glad has an odor reducing trash bag that uses the same technology applied inside the bag. Adult diapers that obviously we understand the issues with odor there. It is so fast working and so complete at being able to break down lots of different odors. And what's even, to me, even more exciting, because the odors are something that are offensive, but it's what's causing the odors, the chemicals behind it that concern me. Its ability to break down VOCs as well is important. It's a totally non-toxic chemical. It is very safe. It has no odor in itself. It's applied to a filter surface. And we have put it into a number of different products, including just regular HVAC filters. So I started talking today about the importance of having a quality filter for your return air of your HVAC. We do apply these to pleated filters, MERV 7 pleated filters, and so that not only can the filter trap those particles that are so important to be trapped, but they can also, the coating on the filter can break down the VOCs that are important to be broken down, as well as breaking down the odor. And so we've used OdorGuard in assisted living facilities where we all know what the smells can be in those kind of facilities. We've used them in dormitories where the smell, body odors can be a little bit strong. It is effective in so many different applications where odor is a problem. And what's exciting is it's not dealing just with the odors, but also chemicals.
Can I just change the path here a little bit? I mean, all of that sounds like there is hope. And for the next forest fire or next airborne contaminant, I mean, there are technologies that will absolutely protect us and help us breathe easier, if you want to call it that. But we also have fire situations out in California. And I mentioned before about the politics of, like you said, the testing and things like that. Can you touch on quickly why California, that has such a large air pollution problem between smog and fires and everything else, is so aggressively against air purification? It's just, I don't understand that. And I think our listeners would want to understand that a little bit too.
Well, I have a lot of experience with California and air purification. In 2007, I was the representative of all manufacturing of electronic air purifiers in front of the California Air Resource Board, also referred to as CARB. And they had a law that they were wanting to put into effect, and they had the Air Resource Board spent 2 days reviewing whether or not they needed to pass a law which basically outlawed the use of electronic air purifiers that produce ozone. And I think there was a misunderstanding because California has had a big issue with air pollution. I spent the first year of my college education at a school in California before moving to Purdue to finish my college career. And I remember so well just being 4 miles from the mountains north of Los Angeles and not even seeing them for the first 2 months that I was at the school. And all of a sudden, one day they appeared on the skyline. Pollution used to be and this was in the 70s, much worse than it is today. So I give a lot of credit to California for taking steps, whether it's car emissions, whether it's factory emissions. They have done everything that they possibly can. But there was the misconception was that pollution oftentimes is measured by measuring ozone because it's an easy gas to measure. The nitrogen oxides that are created through automobile smoke, much, much harder to measure. And what's interesting is that other pollutants, as they rise, ozone rises with them. It's I call it the fireman that fights the fire. Ozone is created naturally in nature as pollution rises because the ozone helps to break down the pollution. So it's by wanting to get rid of ozone, it's kind of like saying we want to get rid of firefighters because every time we see a fire, there's a fireman there. So obviously, if we got rid of the fireman, we wouldn't see any more fires. But the comment that was made to me by a number of the Air Resource Board members, these are also government officials in the different areas of California from San Diego to north of Sacramento. And I sat down with every single one of them in their offices to talk about this. One of them mentioned to me, I said, I don't understand why we would want to generate ozone when we've been working so hard to get ozone out of our state. And I had to correct him to say, you've been working to get pollution out of your state. Ozone is not the pollution. Elevated levels of ozone aren't good, but the elevated levels of ozone are there because of the pollution that you have. They ultimately decided to pass the law against air purifiers that generate ozone. And therefore, that is one low-level ozone. We're talking about levels that the EPA said are safe and natural, that are found outdoors in very pristine parts of the world every day. There's no place around the world that doesn't have a low level of ozone except indoors, that they would not allow ozone to be generated in air purifiers. And you know, as much as I disagreed with that, you know, we just looked for ways that we can still help people through other technologies to be able to purify their air. And our photocatalytic technology, bipolar ionization, dielectric barrier ionization, they're all able to do that without generating ozone. But the one thing that was a challenge was odors, because one thing that is really great about low-level ozone, I'm not talking about high level, I'm talking about ozone that's so low you can't smell it, which and the levels that are safe and acceptable by the EPA and OSHA and WHO and any other health organization you can name. It's great at breaking down odors. And that's one of the things I loved about it. And not having access to it for people who live in California was disappointing. But that's one of the great things that we found with OdorGuard and the ability to break down odors. So we're able to create products that people in California can use with high quality filtration, with odor reduction through the use of our OdorGuard technology, and then incorporating these other technologies like photocatalysis and bipolar ionization.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you for answering that question. We're almost out of time here. Is there anything that you'd like to sum up with? I know we covered quite a bit and extremely informative. The technology side, I think, is something that people need to hear and understand so they don't just wear the paper towel mask and think they're protected.
So true. I mean, one of the things that I say about technology is nature uses a lot of different mechanisms to keep things clean. Don't get locked into just one technology. Filtration's important, but it's not the be all to end all. Use a multi-technology strategy, and there's a lot of wonderful technologies out there. I'm proud of what we've been able to put into products, but there's some excellent products out there. But look at what they do, look at their test data, make sure it's real, filter inside of a box. Is it doing something? Yes, but is it enough? Absolutely not. You need to do more than that. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today, Lance, and be on this this webinar, and hopefully this benefits some people that listen to it.
Absolutely, Alan. And I want to thank you for the time you spent with us, the great information. And I look forward to doing more interviews with you in the future.
Thanks so much.
Good afternoon, or morning, I guess. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, so I'm sure that Mo told you when we created Normie in 2004, one of the interesting things was what we created it primarily for the Louisiana licensing law. And the Louisiana licensing law was the first law to go into effect for mold remediators in the country. So it was the first licensing law, and then what happened in 2005? Katrina. And so we were right there able to help, I think, a lot of people with some of the issues that were of a concern to us. I'm not sure if he talked about the difference between the IICRC and us, but they come from the business more from we're not competitors, by the way. As you know, if you're an IICRC person, you get continuing education credits off of this class. So we work together. We just look at the industry differently. They come from the water restoration side of the business. We come from the building side of the business. And one of the reasons why we do that is not just my background with my licensing, but the main reason we do that is because we try to look at the house and the problem that they're experiencing in terms of a mold issue as a holistic kind of problem, not just fix this problem and everything is great, but think in terms of how we can actually improve their indoor air quality. So when I was moved to New Orleans in 2002, I was actually doing some of the things that you guys are doing now and some of the things that we would recommend that you do in terms of ongoing IAQ management, which is what we call our sanitization protocol. How you create an environment in which mold won't grow. And that was really based on my book, Mold-Free Construction, which you have access to if you have the Normie app. We do have an audio version there, so you can just listen to it. Might put you to sleep, but you can listen to it if you like, because it's on iTunes and on Audible as an audio book. But the sanitization protocol really does improve people's indoor environments, so you have the ability to do that. And I just want to tell you about somebody that I met when I was in New Orleans. I was doing some trade shows, and a radio program, and I got a call from a lady. Her name was Laura DeRocher, and she had 4 children. And her youngest child, who was 8, had some very severe sinus issues. In fact, as she was talking to me, she had, of all 4 of her children, the other 3 had constantly been to the allergist every month. Now think about that for a second. Every month, for years, they had been to this allergy doctor. And she had found some mold up in the kitchen area over one of the cabinets, and she was concerned about how that might be affecting their kids, because she heard me on the radio and she knew that mold was an indoor air quality problem. She'd never really thought about that before. It's mold, how could it affect my children's health? But she was putting two and two together. She was saying, maybe there is a problem here with this mold that I'm seeing. So I went out there and I did the assessment. It took the sanitization protocol. It was not the amount of mold or the type of mold, or there wasn't a moisture problem that actually was causing the mold. It was actually a HVAC problem with the relative humidity. So we did the sanitization protocol, put it in place just like you see it today, exactly the same protocol. And she was really excited because in about a week she was feeling better. Her kids seemed to be feeling better. She wasn't sure. But the interesting thing that she told me when I was there visiting her was that her little child, the one that was just a few months old, they had scheduled that baby for surgery, sinus surgery. And she said, we've decided to kind of put it off because things seem to be going better. We'll see how this goes. Well, interesting story to kind of shorten everything up. About a year and a half later, maybe 2 years later, I got a call from her and she said, I got to tell you an interesting story. She said, first of all, I got a phone call from my pediatric physician, the allergist. He was concerned that we had switched doctors because I haven't taken my kids to the allergist in almost a year. We decided not to do surgery for the baby, and the baby is doing great. Now a couple of years old, doesn't seem to have any allergies to the environment and what's going on. She said, I think you really solved a bigger problem than you maybe think you solved. The reason I'm telling you that story is because we hear that story over and over and over and over again. Maybe not quite as dramatic, but we hear that story over and over and over again. You are in a very, very important industry. You may not realize it, but one of the reasons why it's regulated is because you're dealing with people's health. The health of your employees, the health of your clients. That's what you're dealing with. And rather than thinking about just being a mold assessor or just being a mold remediator, as Mo's probably told you, we want you to think in terms of being an indoor air quality professional, because that's really what you're doing. I'm sure Mo told you already that when you start cleaning up mold problems in an environment, it's almost like a surrogate of other things that are going on in the environment. If you're reducing the mold, you're also reducing some of the other contaminants, the bacteria, the viruses, the particulates, some of the other stuff that's going on in the environment. So you can make a gigantic change to the environment. So our goal is for you to really think in terms of becoming an indoor air quality professional. And this is really the first step. If you haven't thought about that before, this is really the first step in that direction. And I'll tell you the other thing it'll do for you. I've been in business a very long time. I used to tell people I was unemployed in the construction industry. Been in business a really long time. And what you want is you want an edge in the market that makes you different from everybody else. And it's not about price, let me tell you.
I want to welcome today's guests. We have Doug Hoffman, who's the executive director of Normie, and Mike Balzano, who is and I want to get this correct, it's the group publisher for BMP Media. Is that correct?
I'm a group publisher. All the other group publishers are already shaking their head at me. Who's he is? I'm one of many. Yes.
Okay, well, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank
Doug,
you.
as always, thank you for joining us here on this interview. I want to get right into it. I don't want to waste any time here because all of our time has been so tied up with everything that's going on right now, what you have coming up with the Experience show. And that's really what I want to start talking about. I remember from the last show that we were at in Las Vegas, there was a lot of super secret talk about this big event coming up at the spring show. And I'm going to say it if nobody else has. It's all about the special tour for the shore flooring.
Yep.
What's that all about?
Larry, Larry Cooper, as everybody knows, was the owner of this event, founder forever, and did a wonderful job. I can't put words into his mouth, but I know for sure the reason he picked Chattanooga, Tennessee was that we could have tours of the Shaw flooring plant. That's about 25 minutes away from the Chattanooga Convention Center where the event's going to be. And we're going to do just that. And it's kind of exciting. 75 seats only are available. I hate to sound like a car salesman. Now you got to get those seats, but in this case, it kind of is like that. There's only 75 seats available. We're going to see 3 different plants that day. It's going to be a whole day and a lot of fun. You're going to be able to transportation. Obviously, we're going to have lunch involved, and we'll have a tour guide with everybody, and people can spend the day really getting to the belly of the beast and what might arguably is the biggest flooring company in the world. And we're excited about it. It's a fun thing.
So, wait a minute, you said there's only 73 seats available?
75 seats available.
No. 73. And Doug and I are here.
Doug, you were, well, actually, technically, there were 65 available now because there's about 10 sold already. So 63 after you two. We're getting there. You can see it's having the splash we had hoped. People are really excited about this. And the easiest way to do it is to go to our website, rnrmagonline.com. Register for the experience. And once you do that, you have the option to get into the Shaw Tour.
And what day is that going to be?
It's going to be on Tuesday. Yeah, the day before the event, Tuesday, April 2nd. Meanwhile, back at the convention center, where the Coys are going to be doing a workshop, and Howard Partridge are going to be doing the same workshop they did last time, which was very successful. So, can't make the Shaw Tour, don't want to go to the Shaw Tour, you got something great back home too.
Okay. Well, I just wanted some clarification on that, and
There you go.
I still say 73 seats available.
63.
One of the other things that I've heard a lot of talk about recently was an advisory committee. And I only heard the term being put out. I really don't know anything about it. So can you enlighten us on that?
That really organically happened, and mainly because I've never done a flood house. You know what? I'm the publisher of R&R. I've been in this industry for 2 years now, so I know a million times more than I did 2 years ago. But I'm learning. I'm not admitting to be any kind of an expert. So I said, you know what? Let's get some experts. Let's get the people who know what they're doing to really do this, and we'll just handle the back end marketing. And we got a great group of people. Lisa Lavender and Barry Costa have hopped into. They're going to manage what's now called the Restoration Pavilion, no longer the Flood House. And that's going to be paired, of course, with the Cleaning Pavilion, as you can see the symmetry there. Sean Bission will be back, as well as Lisa Wagner and Mark Kennedy working on that. The Coys are in the committee, and me and Andre Hansen, who's the event manager. And all of us together are working on the different segments to do that. I would love to have the two gentlemen I'm looking at from Normie on that team as well. And we will in the future, but you guys, as we're going to talk about a little bit, you have a pretty big role anyway at our event. So you have your hand, you're doing plenty for us than extra stuff. So we appreciate that. But the point is, BNP Media bought it. Not a lot of people knew who we were besides R&R. No one knew who I was. So instead of that goofy guy that keeps showing up on the podcast, let's get some actual people who know what they're doing to do this. And we've done that. And you can see the wheels going quicker now, and it's exciting.
I tell you, I think that's just a great idea, Mike. I think having guys that are in the industry, they got their hands in the industry all the time, that's going to make it so much better. One of the things I've always said about the experience that I think it is just different from any other conference that we're a part of is that it really is an experience. You can go there and you can actually do and touch and feel the industry, which is really pretty cool. I've told our members for years, if there's only one show you go to, this is the show you go to, because it works.
Thank you, Doug. And yeah, it was, I've said many times, it wasn't, I don't think he named this accidentally. There was a reason why he called it the experience. He wanted to be an all-encompassing experience for our industry and the people who come. And hands-on training is the big deal, even more so in these spring shows than in Las Vegas, our big show in the fall, which always is the big blowout every year. The spring show, and in fall, you have 3 days of straight agenda days. The spring show, the first day and the third day are agenda days, and the middle day is kind of a hands-on workshop agenda all day. In addition to the Restoration Pavilion, in addition to the Cleaning Pavilion, you just come in and learn how to do things. And I don't know if there's any other event that really, definitely not to this level, can provide that for everybody.
Well, I know what we get involved with building our training facility, if you want to call it, when we break away and we're actually, the lumber is being delivered. you know, so we're in there building stuff for a day or two prior to our training. So yeah, this is very different than the other shows that we go to.
And we want to make sure we don't, this is, as I walked around Las Vegas and talked to the two of you gentlemen and all of our sponsors, and like, we don't want to make wholesale changes, but on the other hand, this is definitely a time for new ideas and new changes. And people were, as you know about our industry, they're not shy about, oh, good, here's my 7 ideas I want, which is fine. I asked for it. So I think we're going to try to kind of walk the fence a little bit. We're going to keep all the traditions to keep it hands-on and the experience, but hopefully some new tweaks, which will excite people as well.
Well, I mean, you started talking about some of the stuff coming up. Why don't we just cover the agenda? If you can do that. I don't know if you want to do it from memory, if you want to bring up a website.
Well, I mean, I don't have to bring up, the entire agenda is there on our website. I could do what I want to talk about is definitely from memory. And then I just kind of did mention that there's a lot of people who've been coming to this event for 24 years. And they said, gosh, we're hearing the same kind of speakers a lot. Not that, and not that they're bad, they're wonderful, but is there any way we can get some new people? And there's other people that want to just keep it the same. And I like I said, I understand both sides of that fence. So what we're doing is a little of both. It's led by our keynotes, 2 gentlemen who haven't been here in a long time, Chuck Violand from Violand Business Management, and Jim Pemberton, who's a cleaning legend. I don't know if he's ever been spoke at the experience yet. Our friends Lisa Wagner and Mark Kennedy were beneficial in getting him in. I think it's great. And it's funny with R&R, we're much more cleaning based than we used to be, but we're R&R. It was named that way for a reason, like the experience. So I hear my wife Darlene talking to cleaning people in the other room, and she says, "Hey, Jim Pemberton's going to be a keynote," and they just all go bananas, like the Beatles are coming. So I can see how important this gentleman is. So we're really happy to have him. Eric Sprague from Super Tech and Katie Harris from Spot On Solutions, and a lot of other people. And we got the legends. I'm looking at 2 of them right now. Normie's got have a huge say in this event. I think you're doing with you and Mr. Pinto and the 2 of you at like 7 different sessions off and on. Right. And it's very important to us. Hart Partridge will be talking again. You see where we're going with that. I think the agenda is a little more diverse in the way of different speakers this time. Not is what I mean by diverse. And I think the people who come to the show are going to be surprised and excited about what they get.
Well, I'll tell you something, Mike, about that's different from what we're bringing to the table. And we started this a few years ago with Larry, is, our industry and the mold industry is actually split into 2 professions, the assessment side and then the remediation side, which is the tradesmen who actually do the work. But the assessment side is something that I think we probably brought to the experience because it is a part of the industry that oftentimes is overlooked. And in a lot of ways, kind of the most important part, we think, of the industry is how do you assess the environment? I always say prognosis without diagnosis is malpractice. If you don't know that you've got a problem, you don't have a solution. And so rather than going into a project and saying, oh, well, you got mold, let's tear everything out, we got to raise your house. How about finding out exactly what the issues are? Find out how extensive the problem is, what type of mold is there, what type of contamination is there, how extensive it is, what's the water source, all of those things that you need to find out before you actually write a protocol. So what we brought to the table, which I'm very excited about, is 1 full day of our training track is going to be on that assessment side, and not just basic assessment on how to assess the environment from an assessor's standpoint, but also putting it in the context of remediators who also need to be able to do baseline testing and interim testing and post-testing, a lot of things that they don't think about. But testing is one of the safest ways to actually approach a project because it's totally objective. You're dealing with objective diagnostics. It's not about how you feel or smell or any of that kind of stuff. It's, this is the problem. Now I need a solution. So I think bringing that one day, especially that first day that we're going to do our training track on the assessment side with Michael Pinto, with Lance, with myself, talking about, and some of that's going to be hands-on, testing products. I think that's a really exciting place to be. And so thank you for the opportunity to do that. I think it makes a big, big difference in the industry.
That's such a great thing to say, Doug. I'm sorry, Lance. That's such a great thing to say, Doug. you know, again, with my industry knowledge and whatnot, I would imagine you're right. I mean, imagine these disasters happen, and your first natural instinct is, let's just go in there and take care of it immediately. And someone's got to have the cooler head and say, wait a second, let's assess what's going on. Let's do the assessment, start from there. I mean, I think that's absolutely right, and we're happy to give you that mouthpiece.
Well, thank you. And I think the other thing, and I'll slow down here in a second, Lance, so you can ask your question. That's the other thing that I think is so exciting is with Michael Pinto there. He and I now are teaching a class on remediation for sensitized individuals. And I remember when we started with Normie in 2004, by the way, this is our 20th birthday. So when we started with Normie in 2004, there was only about 6 or 7% of the population that were considered environmentally sensitive. That is, that they could not take a standard type of remediation project. You'd be back there again if you did it that way. They needed special help. Now, the latest numbers, 20 to 25% of the population are considered environmentally sensitive. So one of the sessions that, of course, Michael's bringing to the table is a discussion about that and about mycotoxins and biotoxins and endotoxins and actinomyces and things that really have to be looked at, not just mold. So it's just interesting how the science has really broadened this whole discussion.
Well, that was the point I was going to get to, where you had said about focus has changed slightly towards the cleaning industry of the experience. But the strange thing, or the interesting thing, strange isn't the right word, the interesting thing about it is all of these different vertical markets are all positioning themselves now under indoor air quality, which is what we're talking about. So even though you have carpet cleaners and you have regular cleaners and you have HVAC people, it all comes under indoor air quality. And that's what we're there for. It's all about the air you breathe. And every person out there is part of that niche market that has to breathe.
We've talked about that a couple times, Lance, and I remember talking to Jeff Jones, the microbial warrior himself, and he said, well, in his opinion, not to speak for Jeff, but what we learned from COVID was didn't have to do with touching things or surfaces, it had to do with what's floating through the air and the IAQ. And that makes what Normie's doing and your whole side of this industry and our whole industry so much more important because that's not going to be the last time something like that happens. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a big pandemic either. Just IAQ is important in so many ways. I'm preaching to the choir now. You know that.
Well, and that brings us to that second day that we're going to be talking about. Because when you start dealing with indoor air quality contaminants, things that are floating around in the air, obviously you disturb mold on a surface, it's going to become airborne. It's got to be dealt with. So we're big believers, obviously, in being able to create containment, setting up negative pressure, using an air filtration device in the correct way. Air washing, something that a lot of people don't even know what that is. And we talk a lot about that in our training on that second day. Actually, that's going to be a hands-on kind of opportunity to get guys involved in putting up some poly and putting in zip doors and connecting the AFD to the PRV 24Ks and a lot of those technical things. It's going to be fun. We always have a big crowd. I think we had a standing room only crowd last year.
Yes, you did. I remember that. I'd walk by there trying to watch, but there's nowhere to sit. It's so much going on, and it's great. And that's exactly right. That's what that day 2 is all about. We're extending the hands-on, and I love you for what you're doing for this. That's gonna be perfect.
Doug, is there anything else about what we're going to be doing there? I know we're a sponsor, and I know that's part of what we're doing. Anything else you can think of for the Normie presence?
Yeah, we're going to give away some stuff.
That's breaking news. I didn't know that. What are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to give away some stuff. I'm assuming that we're going to still do the apple a day thing or something where we're going to give something away every day. And that's usually, sometimes it's as much as a $1,200 class. So we're going to be giving some stuff away for sure. But I think at our booth, we've got a 20 by 20. So it's a nice little open square booth, place where people can come in and sit and do what we call huddles, where we can answer questions and deal with some specific issues that they might have. So we'll be kind of front and center toward the back, close to the food, as Mike said. So we're going to be there just talking to folks and helping them see what kind of training opportunities we've got. We've got 32 certifications now. We've got obviously training for every single state that requires licensing. And we've got great recertification and continuing education training. So Pretty cool. We opened up a training facility now, of course, in Fort Lauderdale, which is where we do our Normie Pro Academy, do a lot of live online training. And so, yeah, we're going to be giving away some stuff to get people involved with what we're doing. We want folks connected to the industry.
We have people, a few different booths are going to be doing hands-on training and things like that throughout the event as well. So that's great. I'm not surprised to hear that come out of your mouth, Doug. But I mean, there's going to be, again, not to beat a dead horse, that's going to be going on all over the floor.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, you have the great sessions, and it's just you learn and then you learn. I think it's perfect. So thank you for doing that.
Well, I'm going to ask you a very specific question now. What's the super secret stuff that you can't tell us about that you're going to reveal now?
I can't.
Oh, come
Did you think I wasn't
on.
paying attention? Just, well, there's nothing official I could talk about yet, and that's true. There's some.
And that's fine. I don't want to completely put you on the spot.
No, we might have some more fun. We're going to have some fun things coming up. We haven't locked down the entertainment for the big party. There might be a third pavilion in the back, which might be just silly and fun, and you might be able to adopt things that are, let's call them pets, and let's say they're not cats. That's all I'll say. Which nothing to do with the industry, just fun. So who doesn't like holding a puppy for a couple hours, right? While we're learning about IAQ.
You know, Mike,
Yeah.
last year we launched, Lance actually launched Normie TV,
Yes.
Normie Connect. And at the Fort Lauderdale show last year, we had two people that came up to us and said, I heard about this show through Normie TV, which was really kind of interesting. So I was going to ask, if you weren't going to ask this yet, Lance, but I was going to ask about special deals that they can get by calling us direct. I know we've got a coupon code for our Normie members. We also have, I think, VIP passes for the exhibition hall. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. And then obviously we're going to make sure that they've got our number so they can call us. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah, you do have some VIP tickets to give away at your discretion. And anybody who uses Normie's code, which the two of you gentlemen have, you get 20% off the full admission to registration. That's a good deal.
Thank
we
you
tell
so
people
much
that.
for doing that. Yeah, thank you so much for doing that, man. That's great.
I mean, it just makes too much sense. You could market, you could look like, frankly, heroes to your people and your friends and your customers. We get more people to the event. Everybody wins. And if you're going to exhibit with us, we still have all kind of space left on the booth floor right now. You get that same treatment, and you could really look good in front of your clients and bring your customers with us to this great show and learn. So I'm happy to do it for everybody, especially you.
So what are the dates? Let's
Dates
talk about
are
that.
April 3rd to the 5th in Chattanooga. And don't forget, the 2nd is when you get to the Shaw Tour. And what's the number, Lance? 63. We have 63 people left.
Something like that.
Yes,
A
yes.
smaller number. That's all.
And
Go ahead, Doug.
I was just going to say, I have one more comment I just want to make, and then I hope it's okay and that you'll feel good about this. If not, we'll edit it out. But one of the things that I've learned about shows, and when I got into the indoor air quality industry in 1996, I did 32 home shows that first year. So I've been to a lot of shows, and here's what I've learned about the experience: is it's not always packed wall to wall people. But what we've learned is that the people that are there are serious about the business. And you've got such a high quality, I think, such a high quality of leads. We've said every time we've gone to a show, we've built relationships that we could have built no other way. And so for what that's worth, it's about going to a show that you know is going to work for you, even if there's not 100,000 people there. It's not about the people, it's about the quality of the people that are there.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I unquestionably, and I think that, and that's, as we mentioned a few minutes ago, we want to make sure we're not doing any wholesale crazy changes. That's the vibe we want to keep. We want to keep the people coming, and I think that ties again back to the hands-on training, Doug. I think that's what the people. If people want to come and get your frisbee tchotchkes and stuff, are fine, but these are the people that come to learn something, are the
That's
ones
right.
you want to know, and that's
Right. That's right. They want to see the newest techniques, newest products, newest laws.
Yeah, yeah,
That's exactly right.
yeah.
It only takes one good contact at a show like this to make your business. And that's to the point of, it doesn't have to be jammed. And the quality and level of the education that's there and the people that attend for those purposes are the people that you want to meet. And those are the contacts that you want to make.
you know, it's funny, we're talking about the size a lot, and it's no secret the Las Vegas fall event is usually about double the size of our spring show. And I remember talking to our team, and I was like, and tying into what you guys, you gentlemen just said. I mean, we have good people coming though. Let's embrace that. Let's embrace this. This is more of a, I'm not going to use the word boutique, but it's more of a targeted, smaller show. But you could talk to the exhibitors, you could talk to the speakers, you talk to the attendees, and we have all kind of great opportunities to do that. And this is an opportunity you may not have in any other event. And Vegas is going to be great. Everybody always goes to Vegas. It's fun. There's going to be twice as many people there too, which is on paper wonderful. But to your point, Doug, you know, I mean, this show might have a lot more value. It may not, but it might. So get there and find out, right?
Well, and it pulls people on the East Coast that can't go all the way to Vegas. I mean, that's what I think that's been a really smart thing about the experience is having that show in the spring on the East Coast and then on the West Coast in the fall. It's brilliant. Whoever thought of that, kudos.
Well, I'm sure there's Mr. Cooper. I think that one thing I can say, Lance and Doug, to next year, not official yet, but it's about as official as you can get. I've heard from everybody and their mother who ever attended this event, and they want to go to Florida. They want to go back to Florida again, and it's okay. Well, we can do that. Okay, I live in Florida now, so that's easy for me. And so the RFPs went out throughout the state last week. So we're going to be in the next month. We'll be able to announce where the next spring event is. And the state though is almost. It'd have to be a miracle not to be down there. So people could bring their families down to the beach and have fun, and while they're doing that, come and learn. And I think that's a good recipe. I hope.
All right. Well, did you give out the website? I don't remember hearing that.
It is randrmagonline.com. And I mean, all these podcasts I'm on, I'm continue to say I really can't stand our URL, and I keep saying it over and over again. So my company will say, "Fine, Mike, stop bad mouthing our URL. It's a mouthful." randrmagonline.com, and you go there, click through there. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say for those old guys like me who can't forget websites, experiencetheevents.com still gets there, right?
It gets there too. If you click on our website, it pops up. The first thing you see is you'll see experience ads all over the place. Just click on any of them to get right to it. And experience the events too. That's an easy one.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about the show coming up? I mean, this is it. Here's your shot.
Yes, there's one thing I want to say. I'm going to ask you this question. I asked you, Lance, specifically about a month ago. Are your fans, the Normaniacs, going to come? Are they coming to Chattanooga?
The Normaniacs.
The Normaniacs. We discussed
There's a
this.
new word.
It's your fan club, this section. How many Normaniacs are coming?
Yeah, we're getting the word out, and
Okay.
I think we're going to have a very good showing there, no doubt.
Okay, I have no doubt. I just, that's another silly term. Sorry. Like
Well,
that.
you know,
They
it
should-
actually it works because it's in the center of the country, and we get to see a lot of people that we don't
Yeah.
normally get, that don't come to our Florida training facility or out to the west coast of Vegas. So it's a good meeting place also for a lot of our members in the center part of the country.
It is, and I know that he did that in Cincinnati a few years ago with the same thought, and it went pretty well as well. So I think that there's a good chance, drivable for a lot of people. A lot of people from Detroit and Ohio are just driving down. I've talked to them already. Some of my people from Ohio. So it's easy. It's easy to get to. It's going to be. There might have to a connecting flight, but it's not that bad. It's you're not flying to Maui. You know, I mean, it's just a Chattanooga. But a lot of fun things. I was supposed to be on a site tour today. Unfortunately, our event manager got COVID, so we couldn't go. So. But we're gonna have some fun things to do outside once we break out of the learning, and we'll loudly announce that when we have that too.
Doug, did you hear him say something about a trip to Maui?
I think that's what I heard. Yeah.
You know, my old magazine Snips used to have I shouldn't give them free publicity, but there's a association called SMACNA, very much the normie of that industry, and they every 3 or 4 years, they have their annual event in Maui. And it's a big fight to see who gets to go to work that week, you know? But bless their hearts. People go, they figure it out and they get over there across the pond and do it. But this is, I don't know. I'm happy where we're going.
We have a big training event coming up in Mexico, Puerto Vallarta.
Yes.
Same type of thing with the interest of people wanting to go there.
I know a little about this. I know the people involved intimately. And besides, I think, and, you know, I'm sure you'll have a tremendous amount of learning there. The people who go to that, and I'll let you promote that, Lance. That one.
Well, yes, we will, and
Okay.
that's for another time, but, you know, I understand what you're saying about, you know, a Maui type event, Puerto Vallarta. Yes, there is a romanticism around those locations.
Sure.
Doug,
Well,
you have anything else to follow up with here?
I really don't. I want to thank Mike for him and his team and how hard they work to make this thing happen. I'm very excited about it. It's going to be a great few days with you guys. And if there's anything we can do to help facilitate, you know, we're at your beck and call.
thank you very much, Doug. I know, and it's just we love having you as partners, and we are working very hard. The whole team. I could speak for him because told Larry last year in Vegas when we left, like, I don't know if I'm going to be here for 6 months or 60 years, but I'll do the best I possibly can. And we're holding that promise. And come to Chattanooga. You're going to love what you get. The agenda's good. The Normaniacs will be there. I'll say that again. And you learn a lot. And I appreciate the time today, guys. Really. Thank you. Thanks for your partnership.
Thank you, Mike. Doug, thanks for being here with us, and we'll have to do this again soon.
Look forward to it.
Take care.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Balzano, group publisher at BNP Media with R&R and the Experience Events, and welcome to episode 2 of Trade Talks, Unlocking the Experience, our weekly venture into the great event that we're running right now, and we're so proud to be here. Joining me is my partner in crime, the editor-in-chief of R&R, the lovely Mildred Ingram, as always. And I'm so proud. Our guest today, he's an educator, a business owner, a speaker, a leader, a husband, a father. He's a microbial warrior. He is a gymnast, I just found out.
What? And a
Let's
writer.
get started. Hold on. He's a 50-year industry veteran. He's been to more experiences than I ever will. And he's just a good guy. Please welcome Barry Costa.
All right.
Woo!
Hey!
I know.
Well, you know, gymnast, that's in my a long time ago. Now rounds in official shape, not found on a Wheaties box, and that's me now.
Hey, once you have it in you, you can still do it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the joke, right? What do you mean? I am in shape. I'm round, right?
Yeah, there you go. There we go. And Mildred, you will visit me in the hospital if I try to do it again.
Oh, no.
Barry, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. You know what? I want to, we're going to get to talk about the experience in depth, I promise. But I was looking back at your career for the three people who don't know. It's amazing. You've really done so much. When did you get started with the Costa Group?
With a cost group. Well, actually, I had a cost group in Peterborough, New Hampshire, when Carol and I lived out on the East Coast. And then about 11 years ago, we moved to Arizona. And so it's been in existence for quite a few years. Prior to that, I had the Carpet and Cleaning Craftsman, carpet cleaning, restoration, carpet installation company that I was doing right along as well. And prior to that, it was my dad's company, Costa Group. Let's see, no, Costa Carpet Company Incorporated. You got to have your C's in order, right? And learn how to walk, keep back on my knees again. And that's how it all started when I was 12 years old.
That's amazing. Then you were a public school teacher as well for 10 years.
Yeah. 10 years. I taught at the elementary school in Peterborough, New Hampshire, and very proud to say I was a teacher of the year with the New Hampshire Physical Education Association. So it's kind of nice. I really enjoyed it. The kids were great, and the parents were awesome.
That's wonderful. And then eventually you joined like you said, your dad's company.
Yeah.
And here we are. It's 2023, just like that, right? It seems
well, you know, it was amazing. We smashed the atoms together. I was a school teacher, but I had been doing this my whole life. And in fact, I talked to my sister this past week. She came to Thanksgiving with us here in Arizona. And she said, Mom was so upset. We spent all that money to put you through Springfield College to be a school teacher. Then you started a carpet cleaning company again. I said, but look what I did to it. I smashed the atoms together. Now I'm teaching in the industry that I love. And absolutely, it's not even work, it's play, as Nick Palella used to say. So
we've talked to a couple people on this interview. Yeah, indeed. We've talked to a few people on this interview and off the interview for sure. And they always seem to have the same. I said, well, gosh, you had a different background. What led you to restoration and all this? And they said, it's just the industry. We're helping people and we love doing it. And you can just see from your facial expression how
Well,
passionate.
well, yeah, helping people, that's what it's all about. I look at society today and I'm going, this is not the society I want for my son. Why aren't people really coming together and helping? Even Lincoln said a house divided will fall. And
Yeah.
look at how much further we could be if everybody just helped a little bit and supported each other rather than step on each other. But I'm not going to be a victim. I want to try to lead and hopefully get a lot of people along with me and others that are already doing it and make a difference.
That's what, I'm not surprised to hear that. It's wonderful. And that's the kind of guy I've known you for a year. And honestly, you're one of the best people I know already. I
Oh,
said,
well,
the wife that's
then
in
you
the
don't know
thing.
very many people, do you, Michael? I
I
mean,
know
I feel
four people. So you're in the top five for sure.
No, very great.
Now how many experience events have you been to?
All of them except the very first, which
Gotcha.
was the Luxor, way back in 1999. And that was actually when it was Connections, and 4 associations came together to create that first meeting of connecting people together. And but every experience I've been to.
That's amazing. And your role is it's probably changed quite a bit throughout the years, I would think.
Oh gosh, it really has. And working with Larry Cooper all those years, Larry and I have been best friends for so long, and I'm really happy to see him move now in another direction. He's going to build some new things. He wants the baby that they grew, obviously, to grow, and it's in great hands with you guys. That's why I said when you asked, "Hey Barry, would you mind helping us?" Absolutely. I mean, it's all about the event. And part of that event was being with your friends and doing things with your friends. But yeah, I've been involved in every one of them, the experiences, and each one is its own unique energy. It's hard to describe, and it's so funny how themes begin to grow out of them with each one.
Almost naturally. And I've only been to 2, like absolutely. They do naturally grow. Yeah. It's the people. It's the people.
It really is, and it's the energy that develops within the event all in itself. And seeing people you haven't seen for at least 6 months or a year, and some of the best education happens literally when people get together and they start sharing, "Hey, this is happening. Have you ever had that happen? And what do you do?" And it isn't just the events that are organized by the organizers of the event. It's the side events that go on that really make it worthwhile as well.
Yep.
This year, as everybody knows, there are 2 experience events each year. The first next one coming up April 3rd through the 5th at the Chattanooga Convention Center in lovely Chattanooga, Tennessee. Registration is open now. Sign up to be an attendee and be at this event. Early bird rates go until the 31st of January. rnrmagonline.com, our website. That's where you can find all the event information and sign up yourself. So let's talk about some memories, Barry. I know we talked a little bit off camera. Any things you want to discuss or point out that we should know to the people?
Oh gosh. Well, let's see. I'm going to look at it. I put some trivia questions here and stuff. In fact, like I said, in 1999, the first show that happened was, well, let's step back even further than that. Prior to the Connections and or the experience being developed, associations used to have their own mini conventions. I remember John Masuri, who was Ohio Steamway, Dick Hook out of Michigan. These gentlemen were the pioneers of doing schools in our industry, and the various associations would put on their own convention. Well, think as a vendor now. You've spent an awful lot of money to support the association, their convention, but you only have an audience of about 50 people for traffic. Well, when you look at the ROI on that, it's not very nice, but yet the vendors were always there to support the associations, and I was so impressed. So 4 associations, some history here, 4 associations came together, they met, and that birthed the first Connections in 1999 at the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas. From that, it grew into a bigger amoeba with lots more pseudopodia sticking out there. And then there was a change in guard. Larry Cooper came in. He was managing the Connections events, but then they switched and it became the Experience with Meetings and Events running it. And from there, history's in its wake here. But I think some of the greatest memories, well, there were times when sadly people passed away. And during that event, people celebrated the life of those people. Some real icons of our industry, Cy Gant, for instance, from the carpet industry itself. He was on the board of the IICRC as well. And Tom Hill once told me, when Cy speaks, be quiet and listen. This is a man of great knowledge. We also had celebrations of Bill Yaden and Colleen's anniversary at one of them. But then we also had retirements when Jeff Bishop retired, Tom Hill, his wife Carol Lee, Lindsay Barlow, they all retired. We also had a celebration during the event for these people. So if you didn't know the people in the background that actually ran our industry, you had a chance to meet them up front, personal. And some of the events, oh my God, the first Flood House, and we always made it a show. We had this one time. A set of stairs. We had a toilet up at the top and 2 55-gallon buckets of water waiting that nobody could see behind the curtain. You know, it's like the Wizard of Oz here. And we hired a person who went up the stairs in a bathrobe and he's singing. He was all mic'd up. He's singing. This is how we allowed people into the trade show. They walk over, they're watching this guy just hamming it up like crazy. He sat down on the toilet broke. He fell down the stairs because he was a professional. All the water's coming with him, and that's how we introduced the Flood House. So we've always tried to have a great time with people and set the tone of it isn't just education, guys. You know, we work our tails off. Let's get together. Let's have a great time. Let's have a party. And yeah, let's learn too while we're at it.
When was that? When was the first Flood House?
Where was the first Flood House? You would ask me that. I think it was. I think it was at the Hilton. Okay, because we in the order we went from the Luxor to the Riviera. The Riviera was always known as being smoky. We didn't really like that.
It's
place.
a lot.
We were there once. Then the Hilton, Las Vegas Hilton. Then we went to the Mirage, Paris, and now we're at Caesars Forum, as we will be in September. I think it's what are the dates, Mike, for September?
September 4th to the 6th, the day after
4th to
Labor
6th,
Day.
yeah. And it's going to be at the same location as we were last year. But there's been a Flood House at every one of those events in Vegas, starting with the Hilton, at least. And we've had it ever since. And then even the pavilions have increased in size. We've had vendors like Phoenix and Normie building their things. Clean Right in the center field of the trade show would do some hands-on. So, you know, everyone wants hands-on. Come to the show. You're going to get plenty.
That's the experience. That's the experience.
Well, you know what? I'm going to step back. I hope you don't mind me dominating here for a second.
No,
you asked about a memorable time. It all of a sudden clicked. It was really interesting. In fact, I sent you a few files of the history of the event. At the Hilton, up on the 28th floor, there were 3, huge rooms. They were the best rooms in the hotel. And we didn't I interviewed the Hilton staff to find out if they had some problems with their carpets that could be fixed. So they sent me a bunch, and we actually took a crew of people during the event, went up and did live repairs on their carpet. And I had people who have never touched the tools before doing these repairs, sweating bullets. But I told them, no matter what you do, I can undo it and fix it. So I'm not worried about that. But the Hilton got a couple $1,000s worth of free repairs by allowing us to use their facility live. And we did that also in Clearwater Beach and a bunch of places where they were getting free repairs, free carpet cleaning and things, getting people to actually do their trade in the building surrounded by experts in the field to kind of give them some hints or tricks of the trade to solve some problems. So that was
is
really fun.
amazing.
That was
It
really
is
fun.
That's
amazing.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Off camera, before we started, you were telling me a story about Clearwater also about, and we were discussing how it's just everybody loved going there, but we just got too big.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but you said something about when the flood was going to happen, but it's going to happen.
Oh, Clearwater Beach, Florida. Everybody loved the white sand and the camaraderie ship. And isn't it great that a show outgrows the venue? But every single year, we knew that at some time during the event, we were going to have a water damage in the trade show because Florida, obviously, towels required 24/7,
Yeah.
but you always had rain in the early afternoon, late afternoon, and we would have a crew every year have to dry out a portion of the trade show, which was in the garage below the hotel, and it would flood out annually. So we already, by the second time it happened, we already lined up, okay, you're going to supply the air movers, you're bringing the truck. But we had a crew ready to go.
Yeah, if only there were people that knew how to dry and clean and restore here. Oh wait, everybody.
You might think there'd be a few,
Perfect.
but go figure. We're going to teach about this, and we got live activity with it.
Yeah.
But the sign of a good show is when things go on in the background that aren't planned for, but the participants never know about it. So you're hearing about it now because we never let people know that the place got water damage. You had a crew down there drying it up overnight and things like this, but because that happens in shows. And R&R, you guys are going to do awesome. Look, little tidbits of things are going to come up, and you just deal with them. You move on, and you always have a smile on your face.
Oh, we appreciate that, Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. We went into this whole situation. It's been about a year now since we've been working with the Coopers and now our own. And with our team, we instruct everybody. We don't even know close to everything. In fact, let's learn everything we can as long as we can and keep learning. And that's not just an experience thing. That's in life, right?
You know what? You never stop learning. The moment you do,
Right.
you should be 6 feet under.
Yeah.
And but
Exactly.
you know what's exciting about this, Mike and Mildred, is that Larry, Trina, Jennifer, Jill, the whole staff, they were a phenomenal group, a phenomenal team, fun friends. They're more my family than sometimes my family.
Yeah.
And we absolutely enjoyed working together. But, Ralph Bloss said, change is inevitable, growth is optional. And I think Walt Disney was quoted as saying the same thing. Of course, I'll give Ralph credit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but bottom line, folks, now that R&R has the show, I can't wait to see what's going to come now. I mean, new ideas, expansion of what R&R brings to the show. The sky's like the limit of how this can evolve into something that, like every year, kept evolving to get better and better and better. I think the Coopers simply handed the baton to you and said, keep it going, baby, because we worked hard to bring it to here, and no one wants to see their baby fall apart.
Fair.
Even in business, when you sell your company, you don't want to see it to go in the hole. You want to see it grow. And that's why I'm here helping. Sean's helping. A lot of the people that have helped the Coopers are here helping because it's about the show.
Yeah.
We loved working with our friends, but it's about the show. It's about giving back to the industry, which is the first statement you said about giving back. So let's keep this puppy rolling, and I can't wait to see the ideas you guys come up with.
We're doing our best. It's definitely, we're walking a tightrope on. We want some new ideas. We definitely want to continue with the great traditions that were given to us too. And
That's right.
And then that's okay. And that's why, as you mentioned, every year was new ideas coming from the Coopers and whatnot. We're going to try things like that as well. But
Yeah.
you'll see floods. You'll see cleaning areas. We'll see the whole. Trust me. Like I remember talking to Normie last year on the floor, and people are like,
Yep.
"Oh, they're going to change the name." They're like, no, come on, we're not going to do any of that.
No,
we're just
no.
going to take what's working and go. Let me ask you something, Barry.
Yeah.
It's been ingrained into me for last year that hands-on is the key to this, and that's the one thing that differentiates the experience from everything else. What are other reasons that you would know people would be, in addition to that people need to get to experience events, either of them?
Well, you know what? It's actually great that you asked that, because when you look back at the days of the Riviera, the first shows, it was about mainly about cleaning. And then restoration, especially water, with the writing of S500. In fact, we had a session where we had the consensus body members at the show, and a good 3-hour program reviewing the new standard. And people in the audience could ask questions to the actual writers of why it says what it says, blah, 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 blah. And the doors were wide open. Well, at that point, the show then expanded from cleaning to add a lot of restoration. And then it kept adding more and more and more until Larry came up with the tracks of management, cleaning, restoration, remediation. Jeff Jones comes in. Abra came in before Jeff many years ago to do a biohazard situation, but Jeff came in and just wowed everyone with a Microbial Warrior presentation. And then we tried the cage. And it sounds like the cage.
Yeah, not familiar. We need to hear about this.
In this cage, we had like a 3-ring circus, a center area, like a circus, outside areas, and there were multiple activities going on at the same time. Then we added contests to it. So yeah, the continual evolution, but hands-on is what everyone wants to have. And what R&R is going to be able to bring, I believe, is you're connected with many more industries outside of cleaning, restoration. You're connected with the installation community. You're connected in so many venues that, and a lot of us, like I said, I grew up installing carpet, not cleaning it. We started cleaning in 1970. So what I think R&R is going to be able to do, like Larry and Trina were doing, and Jennifer, expanding the tracks, is you're going to theoretically be able to continue to expand the tracks as to what is hot in the industry right now. Case in point, World Floor Covering Association and CFI. Their number one challenge is getting people to become carpet installers, flooring installers. You can make all the greatest materials in the world, but if you don't have a workforce to install it, what good is making it? So CFI, I just noticed again, they've got for 100 people, they're putting out they're giving people tuition to training for the first 100 people. So that's an example. And you guys with your magazine, you're so connected with so many groups and people. Larry's big thing was he always wanted to keep expanding the science, expanding the knowledge, and look at the opportunities R&R has right now with the connections you have with people that have never been to the experience. So it's always nice to have new speakers, new concepts, new thoughts. And that's why I'm so excited about the baton being handed to you guys, that it's going to be successful. It can't fail. With that positive energy and the outreach you have, let's make it happen.
Yeah,
that's great.
Won't let it.
You know, it's all year long. Mildred and I have been talking, and we've been talking to our coworkers and the industry about, you know, we got to find a way to usher in the next generation. And every time I start talking about that, I feel like some of our veteran people give me, "What do you mean?" I go, and I have to pull out my AARP card. I go, "No, I don't need to." That's what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to be the mentor to the next generation. Bring them in. And I talked to Jeff Jones and some other people who speak almost every time about our experiences, and said maybe we'll wait till Las Vegas. Let's get a couple new people, and there's new ideas and new things in here, and I want to make sure they're not offended, and they get it completely. We need them around, like you and me and Jeff and all those people.
Well, like you said, the constant expansion. Normie brought in a Spanish track for those that Espanol is their primary language. And you're absolutely correct, Michael. We have new people come in that aren't seasoned veterans in the industry. This show to them is one huge, I'm lost. It's kind of like surface. I'm lost. There's so many things going on. So some guidance for them to say, hey, welcome into the industry. We recommend you do this. If you've never done this work, we've got from the basics to the most seasoned veterans activities going on. And where do you fit? And maybe a mentor program where you have people that'll tag along with these people to get them introduced to other people out there. I mean, it goes with the name, connections initially, And what an experience. And we
Yeah.
want that to always be a positive, formidable experience for people.
That's wonderful. Mildred, any questions
No, definitely not.
on the spot?
No, no questions. No questions. I've already asked a couple of questions that I had.
April
Barry is
3rd.
awesome.
Go ahead.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
was just
April
saying
3rd to
Barry's
the
awesome.
5th. April 3rd to the 5th, Chattanooga Convention Center, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Spelled out randrmagonline.com. It's our website. I wish I could change that, but that's okay. That's our URL.
That's it.
That's okay. We'll have links and we'll go to it. So early bird rates until the 1st of January. This is great. Barry will be there. Mildred will be there. I'll be there. We're all going to be there. Why don't you? What's keeping you from coming? We're going to have a good time. I think that we're doing as a. Go ahead.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead,
listen,
Barry.
I wouldn't miss it. I wouldn't miss it at all. It should be a great time. And for everyone listening to this podcast, unless you've been involved at this level of organizing an event like this, you have no clue the energy and work that goes in. So it's exciting to work with this new family that I'm with right now. The Coopers, I want to be a Cooper because they brought all their grandkids to Annie, and that had to cost an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
But you know what? I love Larry and Trina. Larry's like my brother, and it's so nice because look, we're not getting younger, we're getting older. His focus right now is on his kids, his grandkids, where it should be. And they're still active. They've got a new venture they're opening up with wellness and health. And it's only going to succeed for them as well, just like this baton is going to succeed with R&R. So thanks for allowing me to play with you guys in the event. Hopefully I bring a little seasoning of experience that I can, hey, that's a great idea. No, we already did that.
Yep.
Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah,
But you know what? It
we
might work
need your
this time.
I've told you 100 times we need your brain, Barry, badly. So it's like a scarecrow occasionally over here. But I got a trick question I'll leave you with. This is a hard one for somebody of your stature, but do you have a favorite experience moment that you can think of? What that was quite funny or whatever? I'll never forget that. I know I should have warned you about that.
Well, you know what? I have to be selfish for once in my life, okay? Because Clean Facts did an article and asked 4 questions, and it was all about giving. But I'm going to take the moment to receive at this moment. I think the biggest moment for me, we had just lost our daughter to cancer, Kim, back in the year 2000. And in the background, there was so much activity going on with not only the staff, but the convention itself, the vendors, friends, colleagues. We raised $28,000 for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society during that event. And my heart was so touched. And I put together a PowerPoint presentation for my daughter's funeral. And they allowed me to actually present it at the experience. And I started crying and just told everybody, you're my family. You're my family. And so with Chattanooga and Vegas, hey, I want to see my family because none of us know when it's going to be our turn next. So wouldn't it be a shame that we missed that opportunity to be together again and tell people I love you, tell people let's support each other, let's make a difference in the world. And as my daughter would say, her 5th life lesson, touch as many lives as you can. And when she said those words, she was staring at her dad. So she basically told me what my purpose of being on the earth is. And I appreciate you allowing me to share this because this is how open I try to be with everyone. And if it's positive, I hope it rubs off. If it's negative, then I'm so sorry because it is what it is. I am who I am. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. And but I really, really want things to go so positive for everybody. And together we have so much more power. So I'll see you all in Tennessee and Vegas. Let's party hard and let's work hard.
Yeah, you have my word. That's what we're going to do. And thank you for sharing that with all of us, Barry. Really, just being around you, you exude positivity and optimism, and so I'm glad you took the time to join us today and be a part of the show, being part of the events in general. It's just a huge, really, really thank you.
Well, thank
Well,
you.
I think that's it. I think that's episode 2 is in the can, as they say in the industry. Trade Talks, Unlocking the Experience. I'm Mike Balzano, Mildred Ingram, and our guest, Barry Costa. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Well, tonight we have a special guest with us, Robert Pettyjohn. Now I met Robert, I don't know, several months back. I believe it was in Treasure Island at a class that we had going, and very, very interesting gentleman. And you'll see as we start talking tonight, just the experience that he brings with him to the table here. But I can't do him justice. I was actually reading through some of his I guess designations and certifications, and there's so many of them. I gave up trying to figure out what some of them even were. So I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself. But Robert, I just want to bring you into the room and say, just kind of let everybody know who you are and a little bit about your background, and we'll go from there.
First of all, it's a real honor to be sitting with you on this phone call tonight. You have impressed me from the very first time we met. And of course, the whole Normie organization is so impressive, and I'm very thankful to be here. And it's another step in this whole progress that you and I go through in our life, how we meet people and they influence us one way or the other. And I'm very, very thankful that my friend Scott Mitziff, with whom I serve on the board at the IICRC, introduced me to you guys and told me about Mr. Hoffman and about Mr. Adams and the tremendous relationships that y'all have got going on down there. And I'm glad I opened the computer and looked at and talked with y'all. This fits very nicely in my personal and professional development. And I'm very thankful for that. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. So who are you? What's your company? What do you do in this industry?
Well, the way I can best answer that by how I started out. And I came up here to Wake Forest, North Carolina, in order to get a PhD in world religions. And everything was going just fine, except for the fact I was stone cold broke. And we had to get something to do. So I said, Lord, what are we going to do? And he led me to a fellow named Chubb Safrit in Concord, North Carolina. And Chubb says, Robert, if you want to do this business, and by the way, I had, in order to make ends meet, I had entered an ad in a newspaper that said clean carpets make $800 to $1,000 a week. But it was one of these bait and switch organizations where they send the flyers out in the mail. We'll clean your carpet 6 rooms for $31.95. But when you get to the job, you have to add on and add on and add on, because there's no way you can do it for that away. But I saw that there was people that had a lot of carpet and a lot of it needed to be cleaned. So I asked my friend Chubb Safrit, who is also in the Mid-South Professional Cleaners Association, the regional trade association. And Chubb said, Robert, if you're going to do this business, you got to do this and this and this and this and this. And thankfully I did that and that and that and that and that. And an amazing thing happened to me just this week, and that is that a gentleman from New Jersey asked me to be a part of a Zoom call for the National Organization for Remediators and Mold Inspectors. And I could not believe that this happened. So what an honor to be here and to see how things have progressed from one stage to the other. And now I'm in a Zoom call with you. Who would ever have believed this 31 years ago? I'm so honored to be here.
You are most welcome, and thank you for that. We appreciate you being here and talking with us, and just bring the wealth of knowledge that you have, for our members to hear the things that you've done. I know you talked about the carpet cleaning industry, and I know you specialize, I believe, in like Oriental rugs and stuff like that. But I think there's also something out there about you with the infection control also. So it's like, this is a big gambit that you cover of, things for the cleaning industry and restoration side.
Well, you know everything about me, don't you? What?
Well, there you go. Okay, thanks a lot. No.
Oh, you're too cool, buddy. I like you. You ask very good questions. Yes, sir. Thankfully, my mom and daddy instilled me with a huge curiosity. My professor at graduate school said learning is disciplined curiosity. And that means that once the spark goes off, you still got to get up and grab the encyclopedia or whatever, wherever you get your information from, and then learn it and digest it. And I've been very, very fortunate that I've been placed in front of the right people at the right time. My very first IICRC class was with Lee Pemberton, the great Lee Pemberton from McKeesport, Pennsylvania. And to have started off that way is incredible. And that has led one step to the next, to where now I have been asked to serve on the board of directors of the IICRC for the last 4 years. I'm secretary of the executive committee, and what an honor that is. But along the way, as you know, other stuff happens. And we usually start in carpet cleaning, and that curiosity leads to upholstery cleaning, and of course, water damage restoration. And of course, people now say, can you wash this rug? Oh, yes. And I'm sitting in a home office out here in Wake Forest, and I can look out in the backyard where we used to wash Oriental rugs in my daughter's swimming pool, a little bitty plastic swimming pool. So even back then, it was a big deal. And we used to hang the rugs on the side of the fence out there. And one day it came up a cloud, and we had 21 rugs we had to dry in our house. So little bitty things like that add up. And now we're one of the most recognized, and I think the finest, most ethical, environmentally responsible, and ergonomic rug cleaning plant anywhere in the nation per cubic foot, without question. Yes, sir. So I'm very thankful.
Well, that is impressive. I mean, yes, this industry, unfortunately, especially in unregulated states on the mold side, you know, there's a lot of problems with people being out there. Like you started off saying, you know, a bait and switch type of an ad that you took, and I'm sure that runs rampant through a lot of the cleaning industry also, like it does in the mold industry. And, you know, to hear you talk about the way that you try to keep this industry on the up and the way that your company operates, that's what we're looking to do. We really want people like you involved in this industry and pushing it forward, keeping it, I'll use the word clean, you know?
Yeah, I had no idea that we were going to bring this up, but I was just on the phone call with my friend Penny Trailau from out in Australia just a little while ago. We were on a little Zoom call because we both serve on the IICRC S400 and the S410 cleaning and infection control committees. We're helping to write that standard. And she says that there are people all around there who want to fog something into your house and then walk out as though they've done something very special. But no, that's not the guys at Normie. And that's one of the things that attracted me to you guys, is that this is not the National Organization for Shortcut Schmaltzes. This is for remediation, dadgummit, and inspecting the way it ought to be done, for mold particularly, because there's a lot of people out there getting sick because it's not been done right.
So if I said that you have a passion for this industry, I think it's kind of an understatement to hear you talking now.
Okay. Let me tell you something. And one of the reasons that this has evolved over the years, of course, my mom and daddy taught me to do something the right way. That's a big deal. But here of late, within the last 2 or 3 years, we've been involved with some of these military families in helping to remediate the homes that they're in, not on base, of course, because it's hard to get on base and really do remediation the right way. A lot of these people who run the housing on these bases really aren't interested in doing it the right way right now. That's going to be changing. It is changing very, very quickly. But being into their homes where they've had to move off base and helping them clean and decontaminate their stuff that was involved in this mess in these houses. And thankfully, one day I was up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, meeting and speaking with my dear friend, Dr. Michael Pinto. And he put me on the phone with a lady named Shelley, who was involved in this military mess about 10 or 12 years ago, the very first lady to prove in a federal court causation between mold and brain injury. She is the one who proved in a Dahlberg standard that this thing really happens. And she turned me on to another lady who was going through some problems there at Camp Lejeune. Her name was Lindsay. And I went down to see Lindsay and immediately saw the horrific circumstances her kids and her family had been placed in because of this mold business, and really became a passion of mine, because goodness, these are folks who are defending our country. And her husband even told me he felt better in old nasty Iraq than he did in his own house. That's a deadgum shame. And we're working to correct that mess. You've asked very insightful questions, by the way, and I appreciate that, Lance. You're amazing, son.
I see it's kind of getting your dander up there a little bit, but it's questions that have to be asked. And we've done a lot of work on military bases also. We've done training on military bases. And we have our environmental task force, which is a nonprofit. We've actually donated equipment to people that live in really bad housing situations on those bases. So we've been involved with this for a while. So I understand what you're saying, but you said something very interesting there, and it's a little off track from where we were going, but you mentioned about causation of brain injuries. I was doing some research between last week and actually this weekend, and found there's some legislation and rules out there from the ADA, American Disabilities Act, that actually covers breathing and environmental conditions causing substantial breathing issues, which would qualify as a disability under the ADA. So, and again, I'm not an attorney and I'm just reading it for face value, but it's interesting that, all of these things are starting to come together as people are looking for multiple disciplines, if you want to call it. And everybody's starting to find the same thing, that, there's a lot of correlation between molds and bacteria and illnesses and in the environment that people used to ignore.
Lance, you're right on, man. And thank you for your interest. My professor said that learning is discipline, curiosity, and you have that within you too. You go find the dadgum answer, and that's very impressive. But I've cried with these girls, man, at their home and watched their children undergoing these night terrors. When a lady gets mold going on in her brain, it causes some swelling in her brain, and that affects the pituitary gland, that affects things that ladies go through on a regular basis. And for many ladies, it's caused them to where they can't have children. And that is a dadgum shame that that's going on. But
yeah,
thanks to organizations like NORMI and the IICRC and the S520 and the standards that we produce, things are, there is good news ahead if people are willing to accept it.
Absolutely. Well, in an effort to keep your blood pressure down a little bit, I'm going to change gears here a little, and let's go into another topic a little bit. Give you a little bit of a break there.
Oh, you're too cool, buddy.
I know you said you were introduced to NORMI like through Scott out in, I guess he's out in Washington.
He's in Yakima, Washington.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know Scott. I've talked with him many times. A really nice guy. But as far as our courses, because I know you've really started to look in and you've taken a lot of training from all over the place. What do you think is one of the most important things that we do as far as teaching a course? What kind of courses, do you find of interest, especially with your background?
Well, the most important thing, the most amazing thing about NORMI is not your courses and all that stuff. It's the people that are there. I mean, goodness gracious, of course, you, Lance, and Mr. Hoffman, and Mr. Adams, and Mr. Zualaga, these people are really huge. Justin and David and Roger, and the ladies that answers the phone call out there in
Arkansas.
Arkansas, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Those people are the people that are surrounding, that are with you guys at NORMI, are what's really, really impressive. Then you start to take a course and you say, well, dang, it's no wonder that you guys are so impressive your coursework, because I'm sorry,
That's okay.
that's a phone call from somebody at Normie, as a matter of fact. I'm so sorry. Good.
That's announcing our training for tonight.
You can tell I'm old fashioned with that ringtone, can't you? Okay, good. All right. But you mentioned the courses, and to me, the most important course you guys teach down there, I'm sorry, but this is my opinion, is this mold remediation for sensitized individuals. Why is that? Because if you can do it for the sensitized people, you can do it for anybody. So if you can gear your program up in such a way that you're cleaning now for the most sensitized individual out there, then you're going to pass every clearance test. You're going to pass every important evaluation that goes on in somebody else's home. Plus, you don't know whether somebody is carrying that dreaded HLA gene in their body. We don't even know that. So if we take a chance and we miss something that we should have gotten, well, shame on us. That means you've not done it properly, and you've not done it according to Normie standards and regulations. And that's what's impressive about you guys. So to have somebody like Dr. Pinto, Michael Pinto, come down and lead that course is just unbelievable. That's pivotal course in my
It is a
opinion.
good course. It's a very good course. I've
Yes.
seen him teach it, and
I know it's not cheap. I know that. This is one of the most expensive courses y'all have got. But if you can do this, you can do anything.
well, you got the two rock stars teaching it. You got Michael and Doug both teaching that course.
Unbelievable. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wow. What a thrill.
Well, let's talk about certifications. Like I started when I was introducing you at the beginning about, the different things that you have, and education wise, there's a ton of stuff that you do and that you're trained in. And I don't know if you want to ramble off a few of those, just kind of some of your background enhancements. I know you said you were first starting for a PhD in religious studies, but you've like morphed into a whole nother direction.
Well, when you, as you would that men should do to you, do you even so unto them, for this is the law and the prophets. That was written in another standard that we are familiar with. Jesus said that in their Sermon on the Mount. But when you look 2,000 or 3,000 years earlier than that, what Moses was involved with in Leviticus chapter 14 about the mold remediation, it's been in there since almost the beginning of time and recorded religious history anyway. So this is a huge deal. And thankfully, I've got a proper background for this mold business in our cleaning. Of course, we're certified triple master cleaner at the ISRC, but that's a big deal. I'm also a certified rug specialist. We're the only certified rug specialist in the state of North Carolina. We wash the governor's rugs and all that stuff. No, they're not his rugs, dadgummit. They're the citizens. They belong to the citizens of North Carolina. So I'm taking care of. Hey, I'm taking care of your rugs out there. Don't worry about that. We're also certified water law specialists, one of about 125, 150 in the country of that. If you're gonna do a flood on water, you better know what you're doing. So getting involved with the Restoration Industry Association, Pete Consigli and these guys who taught this class the way it ought to be done. I mean, that was tantamount to a college level thesis we had to present to get our certified water law specialist. That was just really very, very huge. And the same way it is to become a certified master rug cleaner and certified rug specialist, CRS. That was a huge, huge thing to do. And now to be involved with Normie is just another. It is said birds of a feather flock together, and it's nice to be involved in a group like Normie that takes things to the highest level of possible, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Yes, sir.
I like to I bring it down to a very, very simple level. when I talk with people and we start talking about, how things work and everything like that. And to me, the basic philosophy is, and I've said this before on many trainings that I've been to, we try to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. It's that simple. You don't have to go any further than that. I mean, you can't set a higher bar. And, it's something that's practical and understandable to almost everybody out there.
And thankfully, the courses that you and I have been through weed out the folks who are not living by that standard.
Yeah.
And any schmaltz, any bedwetter can go out and take a course. We know that. But they're not going to stick with it to the end, to where the results that they're looking for is a cleaner rug, a healthier environment, a more responsible way to treat. We're not just fogging something in somebody's dadgum house. No, we're really getting it clean the way it ought to be clean, and documenting it and proving it with our field tests and third-party confirmation of verification of what we're doing. Yes, sir.
Well, there you go. Back to the do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and the results speak for themselves. They really do. I'm going to put you on the spot now. Sorry about that. All right. And I know you've kind of alluded to it, but if you were going to sum up what really you like about Normie, and if you were going to tell somebody about us, where do you think you would go with that?
Well, as I mentioned a while ago, the people are number one. You've got to trust somebody. You don't trust a book unless it's a Bible or something. But you don't. And even the Bible says that its purpose is to reflect what Jesus did on earth. So the same way it is with Normie. You guys, man, are from the ladies that answered the phone call all the way to Mr. Hoffman. That's what's so impressive. Not only that, but you base your course material on standards that have already been in place. And it's no secret that whenever you teach a course, you show up there on your screen the IICRC S520 standard for professional motor mediation, for example. You don't try to appear to people that it's y'all's idea. You're the first one to come up with it. No. You know that you're a part, as the poet said, I'm a part of all that I have met, yet all experiences and arts where through gleams that untraveled world whose margin or whose horizon fades forever and forever as I move. I'll think of who did that in just a second. It's a 17th century poet. But you realize that you're a part of a long chain. You're handling, the baton has already been passed and is handing off to other people like you and me. And we cannot drop it because so many people's lives, so many people's well-being, and even our companies depend on it. And for crying out, our reputation. And the thing that has been my greatest asset in life is been that I know how to pick my in-laws properly. A lot of people get stuck with bad mothers and fathers-in-law, but my daddy and my father-in-law was the finest real estate agent in Northwest South Carolina. And my mother-in-law ran a credit bureau up there in Easley, South Carolina. And Dad never, ever said, is this the best you can do, Robert? You've got a master's degree. Is this the best you can do? No. He would come in and he would say, whatever you're doing, let's just be the best at it. And from my mother and father-in-law, it's been that way. And to be a part of an organization like that is like Normie, that is consistent with my values, is really, really huge to me, because I don't have to wonder about some schmuck trying to tell me something that's not right, or some bedwetter lead me into down some road that's not going to lead to anything. No, that's why I like Normie.
Okay. Again, we have to work on your blood pressure. You're getting all passionate about this, which is great. I really,
as Cheech and Chong says, this is a big dope deal. And my neighbor across the street was their lawyer, so he was busy for a long time. So
there you have it.
And, yes, sir. But these are big deals. And we've got for crying out loud, people's lives and their future children depend on what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, you know,
I was just at a lady's house, a dear friend of mine outside of St. Louis the other day. We have an Instascope machine, and of course we've been trained by you guys how to assess a building indoor air quality, and being able to go in there and know that when we leave and after we prescribe what needs to happen, that they're going to be living in a nice, clean, healthy home. And that is really important to me.
yes, it is.
What?
It's just-
You see, I gave a talk to a bunch of real estate agents the other day. About 200 were on a call. My dear friend up here, Brian Pate, allowed me to address. He teaches all the real estate people in North Carolina, and I got on there and I told him that a clean air, a clean and healthy environment is the new view. They used to be able to stick you out when you're buying a house. They take you to the window and look out there. Just imagine your kids playing. Just imagine the garden growing and all that. No. The important thing now is just imagine you living in your sanctuary where you can go home and take the mean old nasty dirty things that you've come in contact with in your life during the course of that day and come to your sanctuary and heal and get better. My friend Jeff Jones in Oklahoma City says that when we get stronger, not while we're lifting weights, but while we're asleep at night and our body's rebuilding itself. Well, that's why, as you guys say in your class, that we breathe 3,000 gallons of air every day. I mean,
20,000 breaths is the average.
God, exactly right. So we're focused a lot on urine. So how many times do you urinate during a day? 9 or 10, maybe? And so how much water do you drink? I don't know. But you breathe in and out 20 to 23,000 times a day. Far more important. Yes, sir. So well,
Doug has an expression he uses for that. He says, you either have a good filter or you are one.
That's
And
pretty good.
it makes sense. You know, Robert, I've really been enjoying this, and I'm sure that our members are too. I would love to have you back as a follow-up. You know, maybe get a little bit more into the infection control side and everything in another interview. If that would be okay with you.
Oh my goodness, yes, I got a lot of cool things to say about that. The coolest is the primacy of cleaning. We go in there with spraying this stuff and want to decontaminate everything in the world. But no, if you clean it properly first, you are way ahead of the game. And isn't that what our mamas and daddies told us to do a long, long time ago?
Yeah.
And isn't it what, I'm going to show you this thing here. Isn't it what Doug tells in this book right here?
Yeah.
You keep it clean and dry. This is one of the most pivotal books, I think. I know it's kind of fuzzy. I don't know.
That's okay.
It's this mold-free construction 2.0 to the title of it. Everybody in the nation ought to own that copy, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And
Well-
and they ought to be connected to you somehow, by George, to get your New Jersey influence. Because if you do what a guy from New Jersey says, you're okay.
I had a call from somebody in New Jersey today too, speaking to me. So it was kind of interesting. You know, he thought I was from down south originally. I said, really? With my lack of accent? Yeah. Okay. So,
But listen, Lance, y'all got the best tomatoes and the best corn on the cob anywhere in the country up yonder in New Jersey.
yes, we do.
Man,
Hey, it's the
oh,
Garden
man.
State. That's what they call it.
That's true. It's not all Patterson and Passaic.
No, of course, it was also 9 degrees out yesterday morning, but we'll go beyond that. But hey, Robert, I really appreciate you spending the time here with us. And I definitely want to get you back so we can talk more about the infectious disease control side. And
There's so much more to talk about. Yes, sir. And what an honor to spend some time with you. You ask good questions, by the way. You're like
No,
a doctor or something.
appreciate
I thought I was going through a physical or something. You're really good.
well, wait till next time.
Oops. Okay.
Robert Pettyjohn, thank you very much for being here with us.
Okay, dear friend, it's an honor. Thank you, my friend.
I want to welcome my guest speaker today, Marvelous Mark. And I'm going to leave it short just like that because Marvelous Mark is really not just a name, it's a description. And I really think that's the easiest way to describe him. He is a best-selling author. He's a motivational speaker. He's a team builder. He energizes teams. He energizes companies and people. I've seen him at some large trade shows speaking, and it just takes the entire level of activity higher. As you can see, or you won't see until he comes on the screen momentarily, he's just sitting there with drumsticks ready to go. So Mark, come on in, say hi.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and in case I don't see you, good night.
Well, thank you. And just a reminder that the way that we do this is when someone is talking, they're the actual entire screen.
Okay.
So just kind of
I saw that on the program. So
just jumping back and forth with that. So I kind of gave you the buildup of what you do, but it doesn't really explain what you do. I don't know if you can kind of get into that, and then we'll go from there.
well, that's interesting that you say that because that's been a challenge most of my career because I've tried to run my business by one of the groups that I speak about, which of course is KISS. And the KISS question in my presentation is, what are you willing to do that others are not? Well, KISS was willing to put on makeup, spandex, and get a tongue implant. So the rumor has it. And they just wanted to kind of create a disruption and set themselves apart. So what happened was they wound up setting themselves so far apart that you couldn't help but remember them, how you can set yourself apart, hence the name Marvel Less, because less can give you more when you start scaling back of all the busyness in your business.
Well, it's interesting that you describe their business model that way because we've talked in the past about a book that we recommended called Blue Ocean Strategies. And it's a heavy read. There's no question about it. It's very detailed, but it basically teaches companies how to set themselves apart. Don't fight the competition. Don't get caught in that race to zero pricing. Be out there, be the individual like you're talking about.
No, you're right. And I love that book. I've read it a couple times and it's so true. And you can use that comparison to anything. And I think, a lot of times, when we were talking in business today, how we're sometimes too busy being busy, we don't have time to go for the deep sea fishing, so many businesses chase each other's clients, or we're all going after the same piece of business. We're all bidding and, sending out RFPs a lot of times, unless we have our, loyal client base. But when we're trying to generate new business, what's going to set yourself apart? Are you fishing in the shallow water, or are you going to go for that one big fish, that one big account that will be loyal to for you for the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, we have a very niche market with what we do, and we deal with everything under the umbrella of indoor air quality. And basically, it's all about the market being just people that breathe. So it kind of narrows it down to everybody. And that's kind of what our membership base is, which consists of sole proprietors, mom and pop type operations, up to very large corporations and franchises and licensees, companies, and things like that. So for you to talk to this group, I don't know if you could find a common ground that fits across all of that span, or do you need to address it separately?
No, what I want to talk about today is some heavy duty psychology on using the 80-20 principle or the 80-20 rule in your business, because I've found, whether I'm talking to people like myself that's been an entrepreneur since about 1985 and a small business owner, usually anywhere from 2 to 8 employees, to the people that I speak to that are large corporations that have thousands of employees and their sales teams or their business development teams. We really need to spend more time in that blue ocean where the big fish are on that 20%, and we have to strip back that 80% to find that 20%. And that's a couple of things that I want to share with today.
Well, why don't we get started? And I'll turn it over to you. I think you wanted to share your screen there for a moment or two.
Yeah, I will in just a second. The first thing, I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of the basic principle of the 80-20 rule, which is 80% of your results come from 20% of what you do. So many of us are working in that 80% area, which I'll show a little graph a little bit earlier on what that means. But what does it look like, and how do we get to a position where we have that confidence and courage to get to that 20%? Because really getting to that 20% is letting go, or as I call it, since I'm from Las Vegas, how to be a stripper in your business without taking your clothes off. And that's really taking away, stripping away everything that's not, really going to drive what your business is. But the first thing that you want to do in your business for yourself, and this is going to take some time. So it's going to, whenever you have planning time, you're going to have to actually go a little deep with yourself. And that is clarifying what I call your future rock star self is. Who do you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, or where do you want your business to be in the next 3 to 5 years? Because so many of us have a hard time looking, especially in today's world with labor shortage and all of those challenges and supply chain shortages, we have a hard time looking 10 days or 10 weeks into the future without, going 10 months or 3 to 5 years into the future. So I call it the stage. The first stage that I challenge your audience to do is to take a few minutes sometime, turn off the phone, turn off your dings, find a private place, and really write out who you are in the future. Who's your future rock star self? Where do you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years? And that's going to take sometimes looking back of where you were and how you reframe your past and defining your future rock star self, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. And I'm going to ask you as we go through this today to think about how you can help motivate some of our people, because we talk to the